So, tomorrow the DLC for Xenoblade 3 comes out. Future Redeemed. Essentially, the final piece in a Xenoblade puzzle that started with Xenoblade Chronicles back in 20. When did that game come out? It's a bit muddy, and we'll get into that, but um, the journey of Xenoblade has been um, over a decade long now, which is insane to think about. And honestly, it's been more impressive than people even give it credit for. Like, people all the time, anytime something Xenoblade comes out or happens, like there's always people in the comments going, "Wow, this is the little game series that could." People are always talking about Monolith's insane production schedule. How successful they are at creating games in decently short amounts of time. And all that stuff is incredible, but when I think about the sheer scope of the entire Xenoblade saga, um, the entire Xenoblade project, it just I over the past couple of days, I've thought of several ways that the series just kind of blows my mind, and I wanted to talk a little bit about it before it kind of ends. Like, I know we're gonna get more from Monolith Soft. We're gonna continue to get Xeno games. They may not be Xenoblade. They might be Xenogage or Xenoworld or, you know, I had a couple. I don't know. I don't know why Xenogage came up, but like that's gonna be the next one. Mark my words, it won't be. I know we'll probably get some other sort of game starting in Xeno after this one comes out, but like this series has been really fucking special. And I want to talk a little bit about why. And it really goes right back to the release of the original game, which it's kind of old news now, and history that does sometimes come up, but the game originally was not slated to come out in North America, the original Xenoblade Chronicles. It came out in Europe, and there was this movement online, one of the only movements that ever worked, called Operation Rainfall, which actually wasn't just about Xenoblade. It was about 3 games. It was about Xenoblade, it was about Pandora's Tower, and it was about The Last Story, and we ended up getting all 3 of them, which is rare. So immediately, right out of the gate, Xenoblade has this really incredible beginning where an online movement actually worked. That is so rare, and you know what? I'm so glad it did. I remember in 2012 going to buy Xenoblade when it finally did come out in America because I was like, I want this game. I remember like seeing reviews for the Japanese version or something, and a couple of people recommending it and saying that it was good, and I was like, you know what, that looks cool, I'm gonna get it. And I bought it sort of that summer alongside Kid Icarus Uprising, and I ended up playing Uprising first, and that's, Uprising has a little bit more of an immediate appeal, and Xenoblade took a little while to grow on me. Actually, I didn't even know if I was going to finish it, but I did, and it was wonderful. So Xenoblade was always the kind of the underdog, and it was like, okay, after the Wii game came out, it was like, all right, well, I don't know if we'll ever see that again. And then the trailer for X dropped, and we're like, oh, we might actually believe in this franchise. Is that something? And I remember, Nintendo was trying to promote the Wii U, so Smash Brothers was coming, and I thought, would it be fucking rad to get Shulk in Smash Brothers? And lo and behold, we did. Got his own amiibo. I have 2 because of course I do. I was so hyped. I was like, the Smash 4 cycle was one of my favorites. And I got really hyped for the Robin trailer, and I got super hyped for the Shulk trailer because I was so excited for everyone to get to see this game. The game was awesome. That was me throwing something. The game was awesome, by the way. Um, I don't need to tell you this because it's just knowledge at this point. Um, it was awesome. It was a really cool adventure featuring a really robust world, a very unique sort of battle system, which is divisive amongst people, but um, the music was incredible. It looked pretty damn good for a fucking Wii game, especially those environments. It was just really inspired, a really amazing story that captivated you, and I mean, just the setting of Bionis and Mechonis is the best setting in video games for me. There is no better set piece for a game than that unique world. That is a world that you could only create in the land of fantasy, and it's the kind of world that I think more games should go for. So, yeah. um, but yeah, no, the original game was amazing, so it deserved a sequel, and it got one in Xenoblade X. Um, I did not feel like opening my cabinet to bring Xenoblade X out to feature alongside these. Um, Unfortunately, it's not really part of the saga that we're talking about, which is depressing because I actually really love Xenoblade Chronicles X as well. It is no less of a quality game than any of the others, in my opinion. There's some parts of it that are subpar, but that game's world makes up for it. Anyways, but after that, the Wii U didn't sell very well. Nobody really talked about X. I didn't hear anybody talk about X. And I think after that, it was just sort of complacent. It was like, okay, well, we may not get another Xenoblade game. And then the Switch came around, and immediately they announced Xenoblade 2. And it was like, this is really fucking happening. Like, it was exciting because we didn't know the state of it. Like, the games were not selling like hotcakes. It was not like Fire Emblem Awakening sells 20 million units and everyone likes Fire Emblem again, so now the franchise is revitalized. No, this was a brand new franchise. No one knew where it was going to go. So when there was a second one, it was like, and it looked like the first one instead of X. It was like exciting and cool, and it was just, it was cool. It was different, but like, and it sold pretty well because it got to be the first big RPG on the system. Fire Emblem wasn't out yet. Breath of the Wild was out, but it's not really an RPG. And the only Pokemon game on there was a remake, was Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Xenoblade was the holiday release the year the Switch came out. It did pretty well for itself. It kind of climbed a little higher. And what's amazing about Xenoblade is that every single release announcement was a goddamn shock, because the announcement for Xenoblade 3 came out of goddamn nowhere. Fuck, the DLC for 2, Torna, was out of left field because no one really knew that it was. I mean, I think it did have a DLC like plan or season, as they call them. But like, no one really knew that we were gonna get a DLC that robust. But it's Xenoblade, of course it did. I mean, it's just wild. It's wild that every new announcement was just crazy, and it was so fitting that the trailer last week for Future Redeemed came out of nowhere, because that's kind of how the series has been ever since its inception. We never thought we were going to get the first game. We did. We didn't know if we were going to get a sequel. We did. We didn't know if we were going to get a direct sequel, and we did. It was so cool. What a time. What a time to be a thing. So, like, not only is the fact that the series has started to thrive and grow, and like every entry seems like it does a little bit better. Sales wise, review wise, Xenoblade 3 was very well reviewed. It was nominated for Game of the freaking Year, which is pretty crazy considering there are plenty of Nintendo franchises that may have deserved it and didn't get it. But Xenoblade did. I mean, it's a series that's recognized, and it's recognized for its technical achievements, for pushing systems, as far as they can go. I mean, look at Xenoblade X squeezed every last drop of the Wii U's power, you know? Xenoblade 2, was a really solid outing for the Switch, and Xenoblade 3 only perfected that. I mean, seriously, it's just, it's crazy to watch the game evolve. And Monolith as a studio started to garner this huge reputation because not only were they making Xenoblade games, they were helping out with some of Nintendo's biggest games. you know, they're in the credits for Breath of the Wild, Animal Crossing, the Splatoon games. I mean, Monolith Soft helped with everything while still making their own games, while still dropping their games left and right. Their release schedule is insane. The entire Xenoblade series is available on Switch, except for X. All of it, though. That's insane. They remade the first game for Switch. They didn't remake it, they remastered it, but like the work ethic of Monolith blows my mind. And that's something that you hear talked about a lot. It's incredible what they've managed to accomplish. And it just, the fact that it keeps getting bigger and bigger, it's so well deserved. There's so much love in my heart for that. And I'm just so happy to see it because the first one captivated me, and it's continued to captivate me. It's so cool, and that's one of the things that I think is so special about this series. The series started in 2012-ish, give or take. That's basically when it started for us Americans. So one of the things that I think is really unique about Xenoblade is that it is, for my generation, for people who are close to my age or older, this was a series for which we have no nostalgia. This game came out when I was like 20 years old. I was already pretty much an adult. I was in college. I can't say that for basically any other series, except for like Persona, because I didn't start to get into Persona until college. But like most other series that I like, Pokemon, Fire Emblem, I started when I was like 11. Pokemon, I was a kid. Mario, I was tiny. Donkey Kong, I was tiny. All of those. Even like The World Ends With You, it happened during my formative years. So many of the things I like are based on that nostalgia. Kingdom Hearts is going to come up a couple times, but Xenoblade is not. I started liking it as an adult, and I still like it as an adult. It's a weird thing to think about, because when I look at everything else that I like, it's like, well, I like it more now because I liked it as a kid. That's why I'm still playing Pokemon games, I guess, because it gives me a good feeling. A lot of those sorts of games make me feel like a kid again. But Xenoblade doesn't make me feel like a kid again. It makes me feel like an adult. It makes me feel like I'm ready for this story. This series is clearly on my level, And it is. It's really a series that I think has stories that, by and large, work for everyone. It's such a wild thing to look back and be like, yeah, most of my video game preferences are based on nostalgia, but this one absolutely isn't. You know what I mean? It's like, what a weird thing. But that's another thing that makes it amazing, because like, this is a modern series of RPGs, and it's been so prolific. I can't think of another series that has had so many entries in the past, 10 years or something, like Splatoon. But Splatoon is only 3 games, and Xenoblade is effectively 5 or 6 at this point. I mean, Xenoblade, X, 2, 3, Definitive, and you can pretty much count Torna as its own game. Future Redeemed is like, we don't know how long it is yet, but like, there's no reason to expect it's gonna be, anything less than crazy. I don't know that it'll be Torna length, but it has to come close, right? I'm gonna eat my words soon, probably about that. But you know, I mean, it's just it's the weirdest thing. It's like, there's so many of these games, and they knock it out of the park every time. Torna's a DLC. It's the length of a goddamn game. When they remade Xenoblade, it didn't really need a remake or a remaster, but they gave that thing a fresh coat of paint. They didn't just upscale the models, they completely redid it to be in line with the rest of the series. And why did they do that? Because these games, these three main entries in their DLC, tell one big connected story. I don't think it's too much spoilers to say, to keep it that general. I will warn you if there are spoilers for any of them, but that's another thing that's a big feat. There are only a couple of series that do that. Kingdom Hearts is the big example, because oh my god, we waited friggin' 14 years for Kingdom Hearts 3 after 2. Oh my god, that's the big one. No, Xenoblade comes along and has a decent release schedule, and we got to Xenoblade Chronicles 3 with the others still fresh in our minds. Again, incredible. Resident Evil is one that's gone off the rails several times, had to reinvent itself. It's still a great series of games, and I love playing through that narrative, but it's not like Xenoblade, right? I don't have to slog through all this other schmuck and these different tonal shifts and all that, and for it. And it's just, Xenoblade really does something unique. Here's spoilers for 2. I don't know how long these spoilers will take, but you may want to just skip a little bit. But and they're really not spoilers because it's pretty common knowledge now, but Xenoblade 2 threw the biggest curveball at you, because it was implied very early on that it didn't have anything to do with the original game. It's just the fact that there was a red sword in it, and some of the elements were similar. You were riding on Titans and all that stuff. But at the end, it revealed that the world of Xenoblade 2 is on the side of the same coin as Xenoblade 1. Those games are connected. They are relevant to each other, and this game expands upon what came before while still telling its own story. It was a really rewarding way to have the original come back, in a way. It was rewarding to get to the end of the game and have that be the big secret. It was impactful. It wasn't like some made up secret that the game was trying to keep from you. It was a thing that really surprised you, because you didn't think these things were connected, and they are, and that's important, and that makes things match up thematically and opens all these doors, and your mind goes crazy trying to think about it. And the most logical thing was that the two games end somewhat similarly, with this rebirth of the world, essentially, and it's there's no reason why those two things couldn't be connected. Maybe they're connected. Torna doesn't really tell me anything. They re-released the first game. Now there's Xenoblade Chronicles 3. This trailer's going on that I'm watching it, and it's clearly a Xenoblade game. And then, holy shit, is that Melia? Is that Nia in the same game? And they brought those two narratives together in the conclusion that is Xenoblade Chronicles 3, but staying true to the way the series works. Xenoblade 3 is, by and large, its own story. It is a narrative that works on its own terms, even without the relation to the other two things. It kind of, sort of answers those questions that people formulated after 2. I'm not going to really spoil Xenoblade 3, because that would just be crazy. But and also I don't need to because Nia and Melia are in the fucking trailer. So I don't really need to talk about that. They play a role in the game. The game, like the cover advertises that the two worlds both play a role in this game. And it's just this weird, beautiful thing that gets everything put together, you know? And it works because after Xenoblade 1, we didn't know if we were going to see Shulk and the gang again. We didn't know that. And even though it was a pre-recorded line, I mean, it's like one line in two is... man. I mean, it just had a lot of impact because this character's story could continue. And now here we are on the eve of getting a DLC about Shulk and Rex. And it's so cool. And it's so wild that Monolith was able to pull off a narrative like this because it is extremely satisfying for your fans to get this kind of closure. Final Fantasy fans don't get this kind of closure. All they get is fucking Dirge of Cerberus or Lightning Returns. And nobody wants that shit. Anytime there's a sequel to a Final Fantasy game, people go, oh god, oh no, just leave it. But anytime there's a sequel to a Xenoblade game, it's like... you can give me more of that because it's going to be good and you're going to connect it tastefully, and then like you're going to give me more without ruining what came before. You're going to give me more without oversaturating me or you know, making Shulk some weird ass fucking character, you know, or have him take away from the character. Like they relegated him to the DLC in 3, which I think is a fine thing to do, and I am so hyped to see him and Rex together. No other series would do that. No other series. Final Fantasy just doesn't decide, all right, well now I almost called him Link. Now Cloud and Squall are going to go on an adventure together. That's not how that works. But in Xenoblade, it is. It pays off. It rewards you for loving its characters because it decides to bring them back and give you more of them in a unique way. Like they could have just given us the sequel set entirely on the Bionis. But they didn't do that. They brought it together with 2, and it's just... there is no series that could give me that kind of warm fuzzies. There's no series that could make me that excited, that could pull off that meshing so well, because it's woven into the fabric of the narrative, because 2 did that. Xenoblade is amazing. Xenoblade as a series is a miracle of a series, okay? I think people understand that it's very fortunate that we got it, and that it's very fortunate that it has in true Rogue One fashion taken every opportunity it gets. It is incredible that Monolith Soft as a studio continues to put out banger after banger of massive fucking JRPG. Look, it took Nintendo 6 years to develop Tears of the Kingdom, during which time Xenoblade 2, Torna, Definitive Edition 3, and its DLC have all come out. Monolith is insane. Monolith is mastering and utilizing the power of the Zohar just to make video games. And that's a Xenoblade reference. Actually, that's a Xeno something reference. I don't know which one. I didn't play the old ones. But like, you know, it's incredible. It's incredible from like a game design standpoint. It's incredible from a story standpoint. Like, Kingdom Hearts really tried to bring everything together. Kingdom Hearts 3 had a lot to live up to, and it tried to bring everything together, and I think a lot of people were left going, well, that was not as big and as good as I expected. And that's unfortunate. But Xenoblade has found a way to do that effortlessly. And it doesn't look like some weird Marvel thing. It's like, it all seems like it's part of the plan. 2 seemed like it was developed to thematically tie in to the first game. And of course the third one was, because that's the one where it feels like a series that it was kind of planned out from the beginning. You know what I mean? It feels like it crossing over with itself works. And it blows my mind that they're not only able to make these RPGs with giant stories, but they have giant stories that in and of themselves have satisfying conclusions, could be the end of the story, but aren't until now. And I am so happy that I have this series as an adult to continue to inspire me, to tell me that, yeah, there are still epic adventures to go on, man. There are still franchises that can make you fall in love with them and keep you excited at every turn. Because not every franchise can do that nowadays. Sometimes it's just like, oh, okay, that's a new one. That looks cool, you know? And it's just... Xenoblade is one of the few series that can make me get hyped. Look, I'm very lukewarm to Fire Emblem games now. Fire Emblem used to be bar none my favorite series. And it's not that really any of the entries have been bad or turned me off to the series, because I've played pretty much all of them. It's just, for some reason, it's like every time I look at it, it's like, well, I don't know what this game is going to be like. I have no idea. You know, it could be like Fates, where it's kind of like, okay, you know, or maybe they'll go back to making them like the good old Elebe days, Fire Emblem 7 or Fire Emblem Sacred Stones or Path of Radiance, and they keep not doing that. And it's kind of weird to watch a trailer for Engage and be like, this looks amazing, and I'm sure this is going to be a good game, but now I have to wait another couple years to see if they're actually going to change courses and do another cool thing with Fire Emblem games. Same thing with Zelda. Oh, well, they're doing Breath of the Wild for 8 fucking years, more than that, almost 10, you know? And it's like, with Xenoblade, you don't get that. When I see a trailer for a Xenoblade game, I'm hyped, because I know exactly what I'm fucking getting. And yet they all manage to be distinct from each other in some ways, you know, in plenty of ways. They all manage to keep things interesting. They all just manage to keep being really good games. And that's incredible in this day and age. I cannot think of another franchise that started around 2012 that is still doing as well as Xenoblade. Like, I cannot think of a new property. Splatoon, kind of, but like, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, I guess you could argue some of the other systems, like The Last of Us or Horizon or whatever. God, why did my brain think Five Nights at Freddy's? How did I mention that in a Xenoblade video? But like, yeah, I mean, it's just incredible. And I think that more like, we know, Xeno fans, we know how incredible the series is, and we know why it's so incredible and why it's a goddamn miracle, and the Monolith is great at doing these things and constantly impresses and constantly just feeds the fans what they want, you know, with the reappearance of old characters mixing in with great new characters. And it's just like, there's no other series like it. Like, let me tell you, if you're a Xenoblade fan, you're eating good. And you know what? Even after this DLC comes out and the saga is complete, I know that whenever those 4 letters XENO show up again, I'm in for a hell of a ride. And I'm still excited. I'm going to miss the shit out of Shulk and Rex and Noah and Mio and Fiora and Melia and Ryan, Charla, Zeke, Morag, Nia, Tora, all of them. I gotta name more Xenoblade 3 characters. Ethel. You know, Tyon, Uni, Lens, and I'm just naming all the Xenoblade. You know, but you know what? There's part of me that's like, you know, you've thought that before. And tomorrow you're playing a DLC with Shulk and Rex in it. It's like, maybe they'll be back. Maybe they will be back. I would like that. You know, if they keep some chain, some thread throughout these games to keep them together. Because let me tell you, the ending of 3, it makes me want so much more for those characters. It does. Like, they can't leave it there. But I also just really need X2. So if they just want to take a break from these guys and do X2, I would be fine with that. And then if they want to come back to something like this, that would be... I ain't got no complaints. So yeah, if you've never played Xenoblade and you got a Switch, get on that shit. The entire series is on there, and you can't say that about any other long-running series. It's amazing. It's worth it start to finish. I mean, really, it's just... Oh, I just had to get this out there because it's... What a weird thing. I just gotta appreciate it. Adult me appreciates it so much. It's a cool series. It's a fucking cool series. And I doubt I didn't cover and I doubt I covered everything. So leave me a comment about how freaking cool the Xenoblade series is and how cool Monolith is and why Smash Brothers should have a rep from each game in it. I'll go there. I'll support that shit.